Justin Bieber might be placed in a conservatorship. So do we have, here we go. This is according to The Sun, so you know it's true, the entertainment editor there. Justin Bieber could be placed in a conservatorship by Haley if she can prove 3 points to court amid his bizarre behavior. Okay, so I don't know. I haven't followed this that closely because I don't follow celebrity gossip all that closely. But apparently Justin Bieber has been looking a little rough lately and behaving in erratic ways. And so there's some rumor that he might be placed in a conservatorship, like happened to Britney Spears, like happens to many people who are in pop music and who become super rich and famous and then go off the rails. At the time that Britney's conservatorship was dominating the news, there were people who said, we need to free Britney. She's being controlled by her dad, who's the conservator, and he's controlling her finances and even her freedom of movement, and we need to free Britney. And that reflected a misunderstanding of what freedom is. But ultimately, Britney was freed, and now she seems to be trapped in a prison of her own madness, and she posts videos dancing with knives and behaving in an erratic way. Maybe the same thing will happen to Bieber here. This is totally reflective of our politics right now. When you are sane and disciplined, freedom is in your hands. When you are insane and self-indulgent, freedom needs to be in someone else's hands. That's just how it works. And our founding fathers wrote about this in the framers of our Constitution, and they wrote about the nature of freedom, that when you are a disciplined person, when you subject your appetites to your rational will, when you have practiced good habits, when you can be trusted on your own. You know, character is what you do when you think no one's watching. When you are that kind of person, then freedom is really in your hands. And you don't need a heavy government to enforce it, and you don't even need particularly heavy civic institutions. However, when you're undisciplined, when you're ignorant, when you're undisciplined, when you're given to vice, when you're addicted to things, when you're self-indulgent, the way to make you free is actually not to place freedom in your hands. The way to make you free is to place control of you in someone else's hands, someone else who can encourage you to get your act together and can teach you things and can help you to practice the habits of discipline that can perhaps one day allow you to have freedom in your own hands again. But that's it. Because freedom, as we've mentioned on the show a lot before, is not just neutrality and choosing. It is willing. It's how we will, and how we will stuff. You know, I will that I'll drink this leftist ears tumbler. I will that I'll light this delicious Michael Knowles candle. The willing is predicated on knowledge. So that's what freedom is. In the pithy phrase of Lord Acton, it's to do what we ought, the right to do what we ought, not the ability to choose in what we wish. So Justin Bieber can be free in a sort of way if he's in a conservatorship, maybe. Britney Spears, when she was in a conservatorship, was more free than she is today when she's out of the conservatorship. Because today she's enslaved by all these vices and madness. That's it. It's not, there's no shortcut out of that. Liberalism tries to find a shortcut to that. Liberalism tries to have its cake and eat it too. Liberalism says, well, hold on, I don't want any external constraints and I don't want any internal constraints. And I'm just going to be totally self-indulgent. I'm going to make myself a god and I'm going to remake the whole world. And I'm going to go insane, ultimately. And then I'm not going to be free because I'm going to become a slave to all of these passions and vices that are totally irrational. Sorry, no shortcut, man. You should go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles. History, economics, classical literature, constitutional interpretation. Did your education cover these foundations? Perhaps not. Or maybe you're just due for a refresher. While our world constantly evolves through time and technology, certain fundamental truths about humanity and our place in the universe remain unchanged. That is why I am excited that Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. Learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, the history of the ancient church with Hillsdale College's free online courses. Personally, I would strongly recommend Hillsdale's course on Dante's Divine Comedy. In this free 10-lecture online course, you will encounter one of the greatest works of Western civilization, an epic poem in 3 parts that presents universal truth about character and choice, the nature of God and man, the path to freedom and happiness. Hillsdale makes it so simple to increase knowledge and curiosity. The course is self-paced, so you can start whenever and wherever. Right now, go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S. It's free. It's easy to get started. Hillsdale.edu/Knowles, Hillsdale.edu/Knowles. Speaking of show business, Katy Perry is attacking Trump on another issue that he's catching flack for, the deportations, because she says that illegal aliens are being hunted like criminals in their ancestral home. Here, I have her post. Los Angeles has lived under three flags: Spain, Mexico, and the United States. That land has seen borders shift, power change hands, and yet the people, especially the brown and indigenous people, have always been there. I don't know about that. We did deport, like 1 million people or something during Operation Wetback in the 1950s. The people have moved around a little bit. And then when the Spanish came and met the indigenous, that actually created a new kind of race of people, the Hispanics, the Latinos, just not fully indigenous, not fully European, you can't just take the one and not the other. Anyway, she goes on. Indigenous people have always been there, planting roots, building lives, raising families, and now in 2025, the descendants of those same communities are being hunted like criminals in their own ancestral home. Wow. Wow, man. This presumes a lot about ancestral homes. First of all, it means that someone who is part indigenous and part white is truly indigenous and not at all white. And the good guys are the indigenous and the bad guys are the white guys from Spain, which doesn't, but the people are actually both. Second, she acknowledges that borders of sovereignty, territory has changed hands, but then she refuses to accept the political consequences of that. Third, she's playing a little loose with the phrase ancestral home. You know what my ancestral home is? You might be tempted to say merry old England. You might be tempted to say the Mezzogiorno, Sicily or Calabria. But no, my ancestral home really is probably Iraq. Isn't it? Isn't that true of all of us? All of us white people? Because don't we come from Mesopotamia, from the Levant? So what if I just roll up to Iraq and I start demanding stuff? I say, hey, this is my ancestral home. Hey, get out of the way, you guys wearing towels and stuff. Get out of here. This is my place. Plant the American flag there, start lighting a Mayflower cigar, maybe pour a nice glass of scotch. Hey, I know you modern inhabitants don't believe in drinking scotch, but listen, this is my ancestral home. How would that go? I don't think that would go very well. None of these arguments really mean much of anything that you're hearing from the left, other than America always has to be bad. At the national level, America always has to be bad. At the racial level, white people always have to be bad. At the, political, philosophical level, the truly native populations always have to be bad, and the migrants, and those always have to be good. That's just all it is. So what the left is advancing here is conclusions in search of arguments. And they'll change the arguments depending on the day. Just like, you think about LGBT. The conclusion is we need to upend traditional sexual morality. The argument used to be there are men and there are women, and some men like men and some women like women, and it's how you're born. You're born that way, and that's just how it is, and your sexual orientation is immutable, and that's why we need to upend traditional sexual morality. And then 5 seconds later, they said, also, sexual orientation is not immutable. Sex is not even immutable. There aren't really men and there aren't really women. And some men might like men, but they also might like women, or women might like men, or the women might become men and the men might become women. And anyway, none of the previous principles about sex we told you were true. But the conclusion is we need to upend traditional sexual morality. That's it. That's all the left plays with. Because for the left, politics is not a matter of reasoned debate or progression from first principles in an orderly way. It's just people clubbing each over the head with sticks. And so they've come to their conclusion. They made up their mind, and they're going to find out any way to try to defend it. I am glad that you enjoyed that clip. Now stop. Ring the bell, subscribe. We'll see you next time.